Damon Martin, MMA fighting here with one of the top welterweights in the world, coming off a huge win over Demian Maia, and now he's looking at title contention in the very near future. My good friend Belal Muhammad. Belal, welcome back. How are you?
What's up, brother? I'm good. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Well, congratulations again, of course, on a huge win. I know this is kind of been a long time coming for you to have a showcase fight like this. I know you wanted Leon Edwards, but there's no shame at all in facing and beating a legend like Demian Maia.
Yeah, exactly. He's one of those names that everybody knows, everybody recognizes him. He's recognized in the world and in the jiu-jitsu community as like being one of the legends of the sport. So to have a guy like that on my resume is amazing. And it just shows that like I belong with these top guys.
Absolutely. Going into the fight, I know you wanted, the Leon Edwards fight, and we'll come back to him in a minute, but Damian's one of the nicest guys in the world. It's hard to, you're not going to build a rivalry with that guy in terms of like trash talk or anything. But what Demian Maia represents is the only guys that beat him pretty much go on to fight for the title. And when you look at the guys who beat him, they go on to fight for the title. Like, is that kind of the benefit of a win like this?
Yeah, exactly. Like you said, like literally he only loses to the best of the best. And he has that style where guys are afraid to fight him. Like, I'm sure that a lot of guys had his name on their desk and they all said no or came up with an excuse because everybody wants to pick the right fights. And me, I went looking for this fight because I want those dangerous matchups. And like when I'm looking at the top of the food chain, you got Usman, Kobe, Gilbert. They're all great grapplers. So I wanted to prove that I'm able to grapple with these guys. Demian Maia is one of those guys. He's one of the best grapplers in the division. And he wasn't able to take me down. So it just shows a different aspect of my game that people haven't seen yet.
Yeah, absolutely. You were dominant. I mean, it was a pretty dominant performance. You shut down every attempt he had at getting you down. And then obviously you dominate him on the feet. And, so many people talk about your grappling, your clinch work and things like that. I actually thought we saw some new weapons in this fight because I assume you didn't want to get in those exchanges where you give him the chance to take you down. So we actually got to see some elusiveness, some footwork, some striking. Like, I thought this was one of your best performances.
Yeah, I appreciate you. I'm glad that you have a keen eye for those things. But a lot of people don't see the little details. Like we work on a lot of little things, and a lot of the stuff I work on is like really big fundamental stuff. Where I do a lot of shadow boxing, a lot of footwork drills, where a lot of these guys really aren't doing it. They don't really pay attention to those things. But for me and my game, like those little things make big differences, and little small details they make big changes. So like me taking a little step to the left. A little quick change of the stances that makes him think a little bit, and then I'm able to strike from both stances too. So it messes up his mind of, all right, when should I shoot? When should I do this? When should I do that? And it just shows everybody that like I'm dangerous everywhere, and like I'm not gonna be an easy fight for nobody.
Yeah, absolutely. It's funny when we talked before your last fight, with the whole Leon Edwards thing. You talked about the differences you made in your camp. Working in Chicago, working in Milwaukee, working with different people. Are we seeing now the most complete Belal Muhammad we've ever seen? Like, I feel like we are seeing the most complete version of you right now.
Yeah, exactly. I'm one of those guys where it's, as you see, like I said, I just left practice right now. Like, whether it's hard training or just working about details, like I'm always in the gym. I'm always trying to learn. And like a lot of the guys that I work with, we're not a huge gym, but we're a small gym of really good guys, and we're all help each other out. And then the biggest thing is I feel for us is the coaches see a lot of our details and a lot of things that we're doing wrong. So like after every fight, we're trying to fix something or change something up, and just trying to give people a different look. So like a lot of my fights is like it's a different version of me every single fight, and all those versions now are starting to come together, and I'm starting to put it all together now. So it's like now I'm like you said, like one of the best complete versions I've ever been.
Absolutely. I know, as I said, going into the fight with Demian Maia, there was nothing personal there at all. It was all just about competition. I know you got a lot of respect for Demian Maia, but, all signs are pointing to his UFC career probably being over. I know he mentioned maybe one more fight, but there's a good chance we've seen Demian Maia for the last time. I know you don't go out there trying to retire anybody, but what would it mean to you? I mean, listen, to be the last guy on that guy's resume, I mean, that's special, right? Because he's done so much. He's such a legend. He's so well respected. I mean, again, you're looking at titles to define your legacy, but that's pretty cool, right? That you could be the last guy on that guy's resume.
Yeah, exactly. Like I said, it was one of those guys, right? When I used to watch him outside of the UFC. When I got into the UFC, he's one of those guys where I'm like, man, how is it going to be when I fight Demian Maia? Like, he's that guy that you put on a pedestal. Like you said, you can't hate the guy, and he's the most respected guy ever. So, like, even at weigh-ins, it was just like, I was just joking around because I was just like so happy to be fighting Demian Maia. And if I'm his last fight, that would be amazing. Because, like I said, it's all respect. And even after the fight, he was like very respectful with a lot of things he said. So it's like, it's one of those guys now where if I don't want him to be one of those like Donald Cerrone's or somebody like that who fights a little bit too long and then it kills his legacy a little bit. Like, all right, he lost to me, he lost to Gilbert Burns. All right, hang it up. You're like, you've done already so much of the sport and you have so much success with like your jiu-jitsu schools and things like that. You don't need to keep fighting.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. Now, Belal, we've been very nice so far talking about Demian Maia. Let's move to a not so nice subject. I know your other favorite fighter on the card, Leon Edwards. You know, it was so bizarre because listen, I'm not going to fault the guy for fighting Nate Diaz. I get it. Nate's a big name. Obviously, you know, I get it. I'm not going to fault him for that. I understand that. But obviously we talked before, there's a lot of unfinished business. So I'll come back to that in a second, but I want to get your opinion. What did you think of Leon's fight with Nate Diaz? It took place one after yours. So I don't know if you had a chance to see the whole thing, but what did you think of that fight?
Yeah, it was funny. I was sitting there in the back after my fight. They wanted to do the pictures and stuff like that. I'm like, bro, I need to watch this fight. I don't care about nothing right now. They're like, you got media. I was like, let me finish in this fight first, and then I'll go do media. But yeah, I was able to see basically most of it that night. Yeah, honestly, like that was like you said, it was the UFC like handing him something where they wanted him to blow up. They wanted him to steal Nate Diaz's fans. They wanted him to go out there and do what Masvidal did to him, but he couldn't do it. Like I feel like he lost more in that fight than he gained because, like I said, he's calling for the title fight. He thinks he deserves this, thinks he deserves that, and just seeing what Masvidal did to Nate Diaz, and then you see what Leon did to Nate Diaz, like, yeah, he dominated it, but it wasn't. That last 30 seconds was the worst thing that could have happened to him, and it just gave the Dana White and UFC a reason not to give you the title fight. Like you sat there, you begged it, you think you're one of the best in the world, but you could have finished Nate Diaz, who like has one win in the last like 10 years. So I feel like he blew at that fight. He should have went more for the finish. He had some dominant spots in that fight, but it was like Nate Diaz, I don't think really took that first three rounds seriously. I mean, he had a little bit of the calf kicks here and there that hurt him a little bit, but like Nate Diaz was playing around a little bit too much in that fight. And then the fact that Nate Diaz rocked you and almost had you finish in the 5th round, that's what all the fans are remembering. That's the only thing they remember in that fight. And that's why I don't think he's going to get that title fight off of that.
Yeah, I said that the other day in an interview I did on radio. I said, if that guy didn't have bad luck, he wouldn't have any luck at all, because if it wasn't like it's now coming out of that fight, the only thing everyone's talking about is Nate Diaz's 5th round. They're not even, I mean, Nate Diaz didn't win the fight, but that's all anyone's talking about.
Yeah, exactly. You know, Nate Diaz fans, they're the most loyal fans in the world. They're like, well, let him get a 6th round. If this is a street fight, Leon would be dead. All this other stuff. And I'm like, oh, man, Leon, like you said, Leon literally has the worst luck ever.
So now when you look at the landscape at welterweight, you know, coming out of that, you know, obviously you got a big fight coming up. Gilbert Burns is fighting Wonder Boy coming up in a couple weeks. Obviously we know Kamaru Usman's the champ. He's out there waiting. We've heard Colby's going to be the next guy. When you look at the landscape, we know it's not going to be Masvidal. Obviously he's already had 2 fights and he got knocked out by Usman in his last fight. And it seems like Masvidal doesn't have a lot of interest in Leon. I feel like, and maybe I'm wrong, but you're a media guy like me now, Belal. You host your own podcast, a fantastic podcast. I think he's angling for the Nick Diaz fight. I think Masvidal wants Nick Diaz. I think that's the fight. So when you look at the landscape of welterweight, does it just make sense for you and Leon to fight? Like, it just doesn't seem like there's a lot of other options.
That's literally what I'm saying. I'll say that to people. And then, you know, people are just still, oh, you're still butthurt, blah, blah, blah. But I'm like, bro, think about it. Dana just said Kobe's got the title fight. Wonder Boy and Gilbert are fighting. So you don't know how that one's going to end up. Then you got Masvidal's for sure not going to take that fight, especially coming off 2 losses. I just don't think Masvidal wants to risk it against a guy like Leon. All right, he has that 3-piece and a soda over him. So, like, why risk it and take a chance of losing 3 in a row? Because it's a tough fight. So you lose 3 in a row, then you lost all your hype. You could sit there, go fight a big money fight against Nick Diaz, do to him what you did to Nate Diaz, then all of a sudden you're still a huge pay-per-view buy. Yeah, literally there's nobody for Leon right now unless Leon just wants to wait. and see what happens with the Kobe fight. But like, I still think the UFC wants to see him fight one more fight. And if you're thinking about it, like Leon really hasn't fought anybody he hasn't fought anybody that's ranked right now, except for Luque about 10 years ago. But other than that, he beat Dos Anjos, who's a 55er. He beat Cerrone, who's a 55er. He beat Nate Diaz, who's a 55er. So yeah, he has a huge winning streak, but he hasn't really beat a real 170 pounder where you're like, he proves myself right now that he's top 3. Like, I don't even think he should be top 3 right now if you're really thinking about it. And that's not even me hating. Dude's on a 10-fight winning streak. I would give him a title fight, but like honestly, for me, the person who deserves the title fight the most is Wonder Boy if Wonder Boy wins. If Wonder Boy wins, I'd rather see that than Kobe. Because, yeah, it was a great fight, but Kobe literally sat on the sidelines. He only beat Woodley. So I don't think he really deserves it. And Kobe's not a big draw. Kobe thinks that, me and Usman's going to sell 1 million pay-per-views, but the first one really sold 200,000 pay-per-views. So for Usman, who's coming off of 2 big pay-per-views against Masvidal, those are big checks. And obviously, he wants to see those checks keep coming in. So, like, if I'm Usman, I'm like, man, what am I really going to gain from Kobe? I already knocked him out. He's a tough fight. But there's a high chance of me losing that fight, and I'm not going to get a big payday off of that. So if I'm Usman, Wonder Boy is like a new style matchup. It's fresh blood. Fans love Wonder Boy. If Wonder Boy can beat Gilbert, I mean, I think Wonder Boy should get the title shot. But yeah, back to your question. Yeah, I think literally the only fight really that makes sense is me and Leon. And I did hit up Ali because I asked them, I'm like, yo, do they need a main event for July 17th? I'm ready.
Yeah, it's funny you say that. I mean, you obviously work with the best manager in the world, and I know he's always out there hustling for you guys. And I imagine, like I said, I mean, listen, I understand Leon. I understand the argument. Listen, in any other situation, going undefeated for 10 fights would get you a title shot. We all understand that. But, unfortunately, he's in a weird situation where he had all that time off, and then, he had this kind of the unfinished business with you. Obviously a good win over Nate, but not the way he wanted to beat Nate. If he had finished Nate, it would be a different story. Masvidal doesn't seem interested in fighting him, and I just don't know that the UFC is interested in Usman Edwards too right now. I just got to be honest. I don't know if they're interested in that.
Yeah, exactly. I'm like, I mean, if he was more of a personality, like going on social media, like he just doesn't know how to get that fight in general. Like, all right, well, you're on a 10-fight winning streak. You should be all over social media posting about it. You have a country behind you, London, all this other stuff. Like, you should be having people screaming your name to be fighting for that title. New blood, yada, yada, yada. But yeah, I don't know. Just in general, it's just when you think of him, you're just thinking of like, who cares?
So now, with that being said, when you look at the landscape, I mean, obviously you mentioned you'd even jump in on July 17th that they need a main event. But I mean, in terms of timing, I mean, obviously we don't know what's going to be going on with Leon right now, but like, when would you like that fight to, like, let's just assume it's going to be the Leon Edwards fight. When would you like that fight to happen? Because I got to imagine it's a main event, right? Like, I can't see, like, I want 5 rounds. I feel like we need 5 rounds.
Yeah, exactly. That's the biggest thing I want. I want a 5-round fight. If I could get it September, October, like, I'm ready. Like I said, I'm always in the gym regardless. So whenever the UFC calls me, I'm ready to go. And like, even I told Ali, I'm like, yo, I can make this a 5-rounder July 17th if they need somebody. But I know Leon probably wouldn't want to do that soon. So for me, if it's September, October, I definitely want to get a 5-rounder in this year.
Yeah, you were confident going into the Leon fight before, but that was such a weird set of circumstances, so short notice. Literally, I mean, you came out of a fight and you're jumping right back in. I know you weren't really, in full on training mode, like in training camp mode at that point. But obviously we had the weird ending. Knowing how you've been training lately and then watching what Leon did in his last fight, how confident would you be going into another fight with Leon Edwards?
I would be very confident. Like I said, especially that fight, it was literally 3 weeks, and then UFC had to do so much media. So it really wasn't basically training. It was just cutting weight to get to that fight. But now, after seeing, like, my biggest thing was I thought he was going to gas in the later rounds. And then seeing how he acted in the Diaz fight, he's one of those guys. He was looking at the clock at the end of every round, looking at the top, just kept looking at the time, waiting for it to tick off, thinking he did enough in the first 3 rounds. And for a guy like me, I mean, like I said, Nate was kind of like playing around a little bit. Wasn't really coming at him hard a lot. And Nate was eating those leg kicks, but everybody knows the Diaz brothers eat those leg kicks. He was getting taken down with ease. Leon was able to control him on the ground a little bit and waste a couple of rounds like that. Like, I'm one of those guys. I'm not going to let you waste any rounds like that. You're going to be working every single round, every single minute, and you're going to be gassing out a lot quicker than you did in that fight.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's such an amazing fight. Like I said, when you look at, you mentioned Luque earlier, we just saw the matchup Luque fighting Michael Chiesa now. So like everybody's matched up. Like everybody's got to fight. You know, obviously we don't know what's going on with Kamaru and Colby. I know they're trying to make that fight. I kind of agree with you that I have nothing against Colby, but it was one fight ago. He got his jaw broken and Usman's fought 3 times. So it seems weird to me. The champion has fought 3 times and the challenger's only fought once. But like I said, that's,
right. I'm looking at it like, bro, Usman, like, I'll give Usman respect. Like, to me, I'm like, all right, if I'm Usman, take a little break. Go to Nigeria. You're out there right now. Chill a little bit because you're an active champion. Like, you kept going and going and going. And Kobe's acting like he's the champion where, like, he's owed a lot of this stuff. I'm like, you haven't done anything. You sat on the sidelines. You beat Woodley, but, like, he broke his rib in that fight. And other than that, you haven't done anything. And for right now, for the top of that division, all these guys are being active. These guys are still working right now. Gilbert Burns, coming off a loss, willing to take a fight like Wonder Boy, that just makes me respect him a lot more because a lot of these guys coming off losses, they want to take easier fights. And Wonder Boy is one of the toughest stylistic matchups for anybody in the division. So for that type of fight, Gilbert Burns even wins that fight. I think he deserves it more than Kobe.
Yeah. Now, can I assume if the opportunity was out there, you'd also jump at the chance to fight Colby?
Oh, yeah, definitely. That's what I said in the beginning. I said, if you give Leon the title fight, I'll take Kobe. If you give Kobe the title fight, I'll take Leon. Because, like you said, everybody else is booked in the division. So one of those guys needs a fight, unless they want to sit out 8 months, 8 to 12, another 8 to 12 months. Because if Usman fights another one of those guys at the end of the year, he's going to want to take a little longer break after that. So that other guy needs to have a fight.
Yeah, I agree. So, well, I'm gonna put you on the spot right now. I'm gonna make you answer a tough question. I know everyone leading into this next couple of weeks, everyone wants to know about Conor Poirier. Listen, it's a great fight, but I'm not going to ask you about that one. I'm going to ask you about Gilbert and Wonder Boy because that's in your division. Now, I know obviously you and Gilbert share the same manager, but Wonder Boy, I mean, listen, you can't dislike Wonder Boy. He's kind of like Demian Maia. He's like the nicest guy ever. Do you lean one way or the other in that fight?
Man, like you said, they're both one of the nicest guys in the world. But for me, it comes down to if Gilbert's going to be able to take Wonder Boy down. I know that Gilbert brought in what's his name to train with him, Raymond Daniels.
Oh yeah, Raymond Daniels. Yeah.
Yeah. So like he's being smart with it. I know that a couple guys like with Wonder Boy, you got to bring in a karate specialist. I know that Jeff Neal really didn't bring in anybody before that fight. He didn't bring anybody in for that one. And like, I feel like it cost him a little bit with him bringing in Raymond Daniels. I feel like that's going to help him a lot. And I feel like if he gets on top of Wonder Boy, we haven't seen Wonder Boy really taken down ever since, was it the Woodley fight where Woodley dropped him with it. But besides Matt Brown, I don't think anybody else has been able to play top game against him. I think if Gilbert gets him to the ground, it'll be interesting. But yeah, for me right now, I'm leaning toward Gilbert.
Yeah, it's such an intriguing fight. Like I said, there doesn't need to be any bad blood. I talked to Wonder Boy the other day. He has nothing but respect for Gilbert. I know Gilbert very well. Gilbert's nothing but respect for him. This is kind of like your fight with Maia, where it's just a fun fight.
Yeah, it's cool. I like how both of them are doing it. They're like karate guy against BJJ. They're like, that's the way they're playing it right now. And like you said, it's all respect. Both of them guys are like the nice guys. They don't have to fake anything. That's what I like about it.
Yeah. Now, whether it's Colby or it's Leon, we are going to get a Belal Muhammad poster next time, right? Because I got to tell you, my disappointment in the UFC's poster department lately just knows no bounds. I need more Belal Muhammad posters. That's all I'm saying.
Right? Dude, I'm saying like, come on, bro. You can at least throw us on there. This is Maia's last fight. Throw him on there.
Yeah, I agree. Last thing before I get you out here, I mentioned earlier, of course, you got your podcast. Remember the show. You do a fantastic job on that. What do you got coming up on the podcast?
I'm on the edge. I'm trying to get T. Woodley on the show. He was on the edge against Ben Askren, but then he told me like, "Oh, I'm waiting for see what Showtime has scheduled for me," and I didn't realize that was the same day as his press conference for Showtime. So hopefully, I'll get T. Woodley to come on, and then if DC finally answers my DMs, maybe I can have it against DC.
Dude, I can text DC. I might hear back like 2 weeks later, so don't feel bad. Trust me, I fully understand that. Belal, it's always a pleasure to catch up with you. Of course, congratulations again on an amazing win over Demian Maia. Enjoy it. Hopefully next time we talk, it's when a fight is booked. You're on the poster, and we're talking about Leon or Colby, because I like either one of those. I got to be honest. Either one of those fights would be fun. I know it's personal with both of them, so I'm sure it'd be fun either way.
Yeah, hopefully, brother. Thank you, man.